Have criminal justice attorney David Shapiro joining us right now live in studio to talk about this case. And thank you for being with us, first of all. From our experience, it seems pretty unusual for a jury to return a partial verdict. Can you talk about the significance of that and whether it may be telling in any way?
Sure. Good morning. The interesting part about what happened yesterday was not necessarily that the jury returned a partial verdict, meaning that they convicted Winslow of 3 of the 4 counts. They were able to unanimously come back and say, hey, we have a verdict. It was the way everything went about, how the court took the 4 verdicts and then sent them back to deliberate. So that was really the unique aspect of yesterday.
And why is that? In other words, typically we're used to them coming out and it's either done or it's a mistrial.
Right. I think part of what happened is I think the jurors might have thrown the court for a little bit of a loop there when the judge asked, hey, would any further deliberation help? And at that point, usually everyone, including myself and other legal analysts looking at the case, were thinking, well, no. At that point, the judge would have declared a mistrial. But the foreperson, the juror that the judge asked those questions to, started saying, well, I don't know, it might. And that's what led Judge Bowman ultimately to ask the jury to go back and continue to deliberate on those remaining 8 counts.
How dramatically can this affect the time he spends in prison?
Well, it is a gigantic difference in what could happen based on what he's facing now versus what could happen if he's convicted of any of the offenses related to Jane Doe 1 or Jane Doe 4. Right now, his maximum sentence, if he just gets sentenced on what he was convicted of, is 9 years in state prison. If he gets convicted of any of the, I believe, 3 offenses with Jane Doe 1, any of the 2 offenses with Jane Doe 4, that would then trigger the multiple victim enhancement, which means he'll be looking at least 15 years to life, a straight indeterminate sentence where he could face the rest of his life in prison.
If it's a hung jury on the rest of the counts, could he be retried just on those?
Yeah, I think absolutely he will be. It's ultimately up to the judge and the district attorney. The judge has the power to dismiss any of the hung counts. The district attorney has the power to dismiss any of the hung counts. Given the fact where this case started, given what Mr. Winslow's exposure was and still is, if he's convicted of multiple counts and multiple victims, I would be shocked if either the judge or the district attorney dismisses the case. So I would expect a retrial probably as soon as later this year.
What do you think the perception is from the defense in terms of what the jury did?
Well, I mean, from the defense side of it, I would be concerned that they're still deliberating at this point out of fear that they're probably really close to convicting him of 1 or multiple of those other counts. So the concern is that, okay, well, he was convicted of Jane Doe 2, which many people, myself included, thought was the most compelling alleged victim that came in and testified. So I don't think they're necessarily shocked by that, but they're certainly concerned that he has not been acquitted as it relates to Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 4, and this fact that he's still facing life going into today.
All right. Criminal law attorney David Shapiro. David, pleasure to visit with you this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.